What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday.
Monday.
We had a guest, but we unfortunately he couldn't make it this week. You still going?
I'm done.
All right.
It was in my
So it's gonna be the three of us hanging out, but we do have a special guest joining us at the very end of the podcast with a special announcement, a bunch of special stuff. So stay tuned for that. But we're talking about what's going on post-COVID, right? Right, Tyler?
Yeah, post-COVID. I guess a little what would you do with the situation that I ran into with some friends who hired someone. I don't know, just
barrier
talking.
Entry barrier. What do you call it?
Barrier to entry.
Yeah. Lack of.
Yeah. It was nice. A little change of pace. I feel like that's good every now and then.
Tyler gets fired up.
Yeah, let's call this "What Would You Do?"
What would you
this
do?
episode? What would you do?
Yeah, we need to make bracelets. WWYD.
You should write the bracelets.
Yeah, John's on swag.
Yeah, let's get bracelets.
Bracelets now.
This podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. Tired of using plastic and fiber cement on your builds? You're not alone. Explore all the tremendous benefits Duration Polyash products bring to the table and see why users say it checks all the boxes. To learn more about Duration Polyash products, please visit their all-new website at durationmillwork.com.
Everyone's got new websites.
Right? This must be going. Must be a discount. But I do think we need to thank everyone for reaching out to Mike Rowe, because the DMs screenshots have been flying in. Send those to the Modern Craftsman IG.
Yeah. And then send the screenshots to Mike Rowe.
I will. Every week I'll do a summary. I do have them all saved. I create a folder in my iPhone. I screenshot them all. And then when we get the MC Nation shirts from Upstate Merch, we will send those out.
All right. So we should actually thank them and add this to the end of the podcast?
Oh, it's up to you.
Well, you're not going to.
We'll do a roll call.
What do you mean?
We'll just go through them all. Boom, boom. Because it's a good amount every week. It's probably 10 people that screenshot and send them.
Oh, if you want.
Well, no. What was your style?
I just didn't know. We just did the intro. Do you want the intro to roll into us talking about them thanking them?
Yeah, I was going to throw Mike Rowe in the beginning of the pod instead of the end.
Fine.
All right, Doug, just cut all this stuff out I just said.
I liked it.
Or leave it in.
Yeah, whatever.
All right.
It's nice dialogue.
Cool.
This is what really happens. Yeah. Actually, it's pretty much unedited. And you guys are busy right now, right?
Yeah, it's weird. It's to think back to March, there was a time where, I think the uncertainty was so high that I thought we were going to shut down. And I had a lot of pressure from a lot of people to shut down, personally and professionally. And, it was like, you have to shut down for 2 weeks and then this will all go away. And to think back to that now is ludicrous, but we chose not to, and we just kind of all, who could work from home did. But it just, the level that we're trying to perform at, it's so hard to work from home and, rely on the guys in the field that are executing and, also trying to float that management or superintendent role. So we end up going back, but that doesn't answer your question. Your question was about being busy. April, it was like this influx of people.
Yeah.
Insane amount of people calling, hey, we want to build a house, hey, we want to renovate, hey, we just bought a house, we want to renovate. It was just call after call after call after call. And I fielded a lot. I said no to a lot, but we had some really great opportunities come up. And, one I've talked about on my coffee break thing, how we got pretty far down the road. It was actually a week before we were supposed to start, and they canceled the contract and, said, yeah, it's just, for X, these are the reasons we're deciding to cancel for, what is that clause? It's cancel for, not, I forget the terminology, but It's like on the tip of my tongue.
Indemnity?
No. It's like,
Is
why would someone cancel? I feel like I have to look this up. Like why? Like you can't cancel for. I keep wanting to say efficiency, and that's not the word.
Was it like an emergency type thing?
No, it wasn't. It was
Egregiousy? What's that word?
What is the clause? I don't
Is
even
it
know
in
how to
your
look
contract?
It is. I'm not gonna read my contract right now. Clause, and I'm just gonna Google it.
Just make it up.
Clause.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I mean, I could only handle so much work coming in, but it was like everything stopped when all of this hit. I mean, we didn't stop working. It was the same thing. We were on one job, but everything dried up. There were really no leads. People who we had been working with kind of disappeared, which was fine. I'm not going to look to chase down work or pressure people who are uncomfortable or put in a bad financial situation from this. And then it got extremely crazy. And like you said, people looking to relocate, families looking to relocate or bring their in-laws closer, or parents closer, or move closer to them. I guess a lot of people being home more wanted to expand their homes or just get a new home, and then everyone wanting everything at once, and there not being enough labor or enough materials, which I don't know. I just kind of look at it the same as I always do, and the jobs that I want are specific jobs, and the rest it was just a lot more leads that I couldn't do that much work anyway. But I do feel like since school picked back up, just the influx of potential work has kind of slowed down some again.
Yeah. It's it was weird. It was, we were saying no to a lot of work because we were getting a lot of really great leads. But we had that, that one was a great lead for us, great project, and it just started turning into, value engineering it to a point where that's essentially what it came down to is, they wanted to be under what we had contracted the build at, and it was like cutting a significant amount of scope to the point where it just wasn't our project anymore.
Yeah.
So they basically canceled, and I said, what do I have to do to keep the job? Because, at this point we needed, we were going to have a hole in the schedule.
Yeah.
It was a 12-month job. And it just, I kind of had that realization that I was like, listen, I can't do this. I can't value engineer this project that far down and have it still run smoothly, be managed the way that we manage. The expectation is just not going to be there, or the expectation is going to be there and we're not going to be able to deliver on it. So we had to walk away from it. But I felt as though there was a lot of that. There was a lot of leads that came in that just kind of were wishy-washy.
Yeah.
And it was just for one reason or the other. But I do think back, because right prior to COVID, I had started working with a business coach and kind of reworking my sales strategy and my marketing strategy, and kind of just putting together a more formal process that I could follow. And it's hard for me to hard for me to understand if that was, what all these extra leads were. Was that a product of what I was doing, or was it a product of COVID? And
I guess there's no real way of telling.
No, not at all. But I think the biggest issue that we've dealt with is that stuff got delayed. It's great for a lot of our projects that are were going on or are going on now, because we can dedicate more time to them and make sure that we're not rushing into the next thing. But as they close out, like a lot of these jobs were supposed to be started a couple months ago, and it's like we're held up with permitting or zoning or just delays in general, like whatever, all of the above kind of slowing down the approval and permitting process. So now it's like we're looking at 2021 and spring. It's like everyone wants to start in spring.
Yeah. It's funny. Everyone who gets a hold of me is getting a new house and they want a new kitchen before they move in. Well, when are you closing? October, November. And it's like, all right, it's impossible. If everything were normal, it would be impossible. And so I'm just having the conversation with people now, kind of how we work, and that I asking them what their concerns are with doing a remodel. His food's in there. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Doing a remodel with, yo, Gus. Oh, hold on. Look, there's Gus. Doing a remodel with, like, while living in the house, and a lot of their concerns are typical concerns with somebody of doing a renovation while they're living there, and it's just not a concern for me the way that we do things. So I've had that conversation with people where it's like, right now, anything that you're doing, you're going to be rushing. If you find somebody who can fit you into their schedule, I would be concerned as to why they have such an opening in their schedule.
You and John have said that a handful of times, and it's like there's been, probably a few times that you guys have said that, and I'm like, right now I could fit something in my schedule. Yeah,
but like, if you're forcing something or you're just telling somebody to make it work, that's by chance that you find a reputable contractor who has all of his or her ducks in a row and just happens to have an immediate opening, unless you're some large-scale firm.
Sure.
I think that most people who have a thriving, successful business, unless there's a hiccup, should probably have a sufficient amount of work lined up for themselves, their family, their employees, and everything else.
Agreed, and I think the key word is should. Right now, it's like there's been this hiccup of delays and cancellations, and I think back, like, maybe it was my process in that we decided to walk away from, or they canceled that contract and we decided to walk away from another job, and it's like, this is the product of it. And, we've hired a lot of people in the last couple of months, and it's like the intent was for us to have a lot more work going on, but it's fine. It's like I look at it as this is an opportunity for those that are new to get acclimated before it's just balls to the wall again. And, I feel like every year I try to, roll into November, closing stuff out, kind of coast through December because we end up taking, the 10 days off. And then January 1st, we come back and it's like, all right, it's time to go again. And it's always, I feel like every year prior was always so busy leading into the holidays. We've talked about it on the podcast. It's like, it's got to get done. It's got to get done. You stress yourself out. And it's like, I just, I really think that's probably why I stopped making it so busy around the holidays that, hey, let's slow down, coast out into the year, finish the year strong, and then come back in January really hard.
Yeah, which probably explains what's going on with the market, why people are looking to just buy new completely and relocate or renovate prior to moving in, just because at this point it's impossible to do a live-in renovation just because everyone is home. It's not like you have parents going to work, kids going to school on a normal schedule. Any remodel that you do at this point, you have the entire family home for the bulk of the day, every day. So I'm sure a lot of people are considering that when they're doing projects too. It's like, well, we could buy a new house and get it renovated and then move in and have it be done and have it done exactly the way we want. It's definitely, it's an interesting time. Maybe foolishly, I'm not concerned about what's going to happen. I think that people are going to continue to update and upgrade their homes just with spending more and more time at home. Businesses, the economy seems to be doing well. I do think that there's a lot of industry, even the housing market right now, that just with people going back to school and being unsure of what's going on with that, are holding off on picking up the phone and looking to schedule something.
Yeah.
But lead times are weird. It's certain materials, obviously the lumber increase and then all the wildfires and all that stuff are definitely not helping. Luckily we don't do a ton of volume work or large size jobs where if our prices go up, it's minimal, and it's not, if we need to go to the customer, it's not a huge sit down conversation where,
right,
hey, our lumber price is now twice the amount to build your home.
Right. When it's like you had $1,000 in the budget for lumber anyway.
Yeah, it's so it's not a huge deal on our end. Even I just touched base with one of the cabinet companies we use, and we're like, hey, what's your lead time? Our pricing, has pricing gone up? And they're like, no, standard lead time, pricing still what it was in March. So we're good to go there, which is reassuring.
Yeah, that's helpful. I think, you know, it's just interesting. Like, I think with my business and my approach is that every year I'm trying to kind of, I don't really like the term level up, but that's, you know, in some sense, that's what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to get to, you know, the next level. And it's every year we kind of come back a notch and do a handful of projects that are great projects. Love the projects. They're always good. Clients are great, but it's like, this isn't really what we want to be doing.
Yeah.
And then we get the one or two that meet the mark for, you know, 2020 or the year. And then it's like, all right, let's try to use that as our threshold so we can then grow to the next level. And I think that's what, you know, I think that works against me in a lot of these scenarios, is that, you know, I'm saying no to work because it doesn't fit, because I'm trying to get to the next level, but also realizing that we're dealing with a pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, and we're hiring people and we're growing, you know, it's like.
And every job doesn't need to be a step up. Like, it's fine to have a lateral move or even a step backwards. I think when you look at the big picture, you want to still continue to be ascending. But realistically, maybe not in Nick Schiffer world, but I think that most growth within a business is not like step up, step up, step up.
No,
so you have to be realistic in that sense, you know?
Yeah, I feel as though I do a pretty good job being realistic, but I do think that I think that's where my risk tolerance
you just
comes in.
want more than that.
Yeah, and it's like, I'm willing to say no to a job where it's like, yeah, that, you know, we do take it. You know, we talked about it today. It's like, you know, we have a bunch of great projects that are going to be wrapping up this fall. We have a bunch of stuff starting in the spring. And it's like, we have a couple small things that will roll us from fall into spring. And it's like, we could probably take on another one or two things. And, you know, Tony, who's one of the our new PM, you know, had someone come to approach him today, said, hey, will you guys do a bathroom? He's like, I don't think so, but I guess what's the timeline? What's the budget? You know, what's the scope? And he asked me, I'm like, listen, if budget works and timeline works and all of it works and they want to get started, why not? You know, it's like, we can still do that. Like, that's not our market, but if it's, you know, a good designer and, you know, someone we want to work with and it fits into our schedule for the winter.
Yeah, it keeps
that's a
people
great
busy
project to kind of coast through.
What is permitting been a pain in the butt with you guys?
To be honest, not currently. Boston's been pretty good. Cambridge has been pretty good. You know, everyone has like COVID requirements now. You know, Cambridge is you got to submit reports every Friday of all your COVID weekly reporting. That's the most strict. Beyond that, it's like the zoning meetings that have been delayed. So we have a handful of projects that are in zoning right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's just a slower process. Or like there is no process. Like, I have one where it's like, yeah, we'll have a hearing on the 15th. And I'm like, and then what? And he's like, you'll just have to come in and pick up your paperwork when the office opens. I'm like, when's the office opening?
Yeah.
Oh, we don't know. I'm like, so am I starting this fall?
That's a problem. I mean, I don't need. I typically don't deal with this, but even the job that we're on now, we started 2 weeks ago, maybe a little longer. Permits weren't in for it, and like, obviously we still need to get inspections. I spoke with the township, everything was submitted. They told me things were approved, but initially I submitted permits on July 31st, and they were like, you know, by law we have 20 days to turn it around. And I guess on August 12th something went into my junk folder, and never found anything out about it. And I'm the type where I try not to bother the township, because they can, I know township, city, whatever you want to call it, but they can, I don't know. I feel like if it were ready, they would call me. And finally, I got a hold of them in September when I was like, all right, I really got to start this job now. I have subs lined up, everything else. And they're like, we sent you an email on August 12th. And I went through, and it was just dumb stuff. Like, I didn't sign off on where the plans were signed off by the homeowner, not an architect. Which, like, it's a garage remodel. Everything's there. We put up one partition wall. There's electrical, which has its own set of plans from the electrician. It's just not anything, I feel like, that couldn't get pushed through. And then the building the mechanical official passed the mechanical, and then the building official failed the mechanical because there wasn't a load calculation. Like, how did the mechanical get passed by the mechanical inspector but not by the building inspector? So I immediately got them the answers to that stuff, and that was on, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago. No, it was almost over 3.5 weeks ago. And then I call up like a week later, hey, just want to make sure everything's going on. You were good to go. Oh yeah, we received everything. It's fine. Everything got approved. They're just they're backed up on issuing permits. And so I was like, all right, whatever. I'm just going to start this job. And when we're ready to go, I'll call for inspections and all that stuff. No harm, no foul. Told the homeowner that that's what I was going to do. I just didn't want to wait any longer. And then I finally called them again yesterday. They're like, oh yeah, they were ready on the 17th. And I'd called after the 17th to check if they were ready. And they told me no. And it's like, then the lady's like, oh yeah, we've been having issues with our IT right now. We're trying to sort that out. And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't bother me as much, or it shouldn't, like, for somebody like you that's trying to keep everyone busy. But if I have subs lined up and I had a ton of employees that I was depending on this job to be progressing at a normal rate, that would kind of screw me. The fact that just like, hey, there's no permits. We don't know when they're going to be ready. There's a lot of paperwork that's getting done on our end and just no answers. So it's like, all right, when can I start? No, we don't know. Usually it takes a few days, but that's if you're lucky. It's all right. Thanks for the insight.
Yeah. It's, you know, I will say what I do appreciate about this time and everything that's going on is it's making me work harder in the business and realize, all right, like, you have to have some tenacity, but you also need to be pretty agile. And I think we talked about that with Trevor, right? Trevor Holtz from New York. And, you know, being adaptable, right? And I think one thing that, you know, I don't think it's any secret. Like we talk about this a lot. I reach out, I talk to every builder I can and just pick their brain as much as they're willing to share. And many of them, like myself, are willing to share it all. And it's like, everyone's advice to me is, and I'm going to say this cautiously, to get rid of the carpentry aspect of my business, because it's not an efficient way to run a building business. And they don't necessarily mean fire everyone, they mean separate it. I mean, like, have a carpentry company and then have a building company, and you hire the carpentry company, you know, to support the building company, and then the carpenters can get subbed out for other things. And it's just not the way I wanted to build my company. I want this to be a family thing. Like, you know, I love the way Jeff Sweener, you know, has his carpenters, like they're on his projects. But what that common, you know, recommendation, it's like, it started making me think about the business, and it's like, it really is three different businesses. Yeah, it's like three companies, and I look at it as millwork, carpentry, and the general contracting company, and that's really made me start to look at that and say, all right, could I treat them separately or utilize that kind of like three pockets? And what we started realizing is that, all right, oftentimes we do need a lot of carpenters, and one of the options is obviously subbing out carpenters. But we talked about, all right, if we hire them, what happens if we, you know, don't need them on a particular project? And that's where we started thinking, all right, all of our clients have reached out for small carpentry jobs. We have one right now that needs their rear deck replaced. It's 3 weeks worth of work. It's like, so why don't we just look at this as a carpentry job and use that as infill for the carpenters and be an asset to our previous clients when they do have these small projects? And it's the same thing with the millwork shop. It's like, yeah, we're always busy with millwork for projects, but it's like, why not take on a small millwork driven project where it's only millwork, only built-ins? I think I told you there's, we have someone that is out of state in New Jersey, wants us to build the whole millwork package for their entire house. It's like, what prevents us from doing that? We can treat that as, as a millwork company.
Yeah, because as a builder, if those are all within the confines of your business, you're just bearing an extreme overhead, right? To have a shop in house to provide cabinets for your projects is costing you way more than another builder who's just paying for somebody to have them supply cabinets. And you have a quality control and everything else, but you could realistically probably lower your overhead, have somebody managing that project, managing cabinet fabrication and production, and still cost less than what you do right now delivering a similar product. But like, if you were able to separate them out and they were running on their own and then also supplementing what you guys are doing as a builder, I think that it would definitely lower your overhead as a builder. Because if you were just a builder and just subcontracting things, the goal is to reduce your overhead, have as few employees and expenses as possible, and then you're maximizing your profit. But
right,
like, it probably costs you a lot to have your carpenters on staff to run a project,
absolutely,
and to be doing a project, and more than it would if you just subbed that out. And that's that overhead your company and your customers are bearing entirely.
Yeah, I mean, the company primarily, right? It's like the client gets billed for the hours that we work. And it's like everything beyond that, it's like if they're not working on a project and they're not billable, then they're straight overhead. And like I said, it goes back to that's what I wanted my company to be. I wanted it to be carpenters. I wanted it to be the same guys. I wanted it to be this family, this family mentality. And it's like, I do that. I look at Sweener and I like the way he's set up, and he's, one of the only people that I know that's set up like that.
I just think it's tough once you start sending them, unless you have a massive company, once you start sending them to other jobs, unless you had, I feel like you would have to have a crew of guys who just did the small carpentry related work. Because I think that once you start bouncing around, especially with the level of execution on your jobs, it's tough to go from that to installing a deck. I think, that there's certain guys that can't separate that,
100%. I think that, and it's the interim, it's like right now this is where we're in this limbo of growth again. So it's like we're bringing on guys because we're bringing on bigger projects. Like, ultimately, my end goal is to build or have projects that are 12, 24 months long, extremely high level detail homes where the crew is there from groundbreaking to punch list.
Yeah. John, how you feeling?
A little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, first day back at work today.
Really?
Wise?
2. What's that?
Percentage wise, you were at 80 yesterday.
Oh, I'm still there. I feel like 75, 80. That's where I'm hanging tight.
I feel like you're gonna go backwards a little bit once you get going again.
I went backwards yesterday with the. I didn't work at all yesterday. I went to. I went to a couple of job sites in Wellesley, local, trying to take it easy, and had a chiropractor and what's the acupuncture?
Oh.
And the chiropractor was like, "Yeah, you're probably gonna feel like you went in reverse a little bit," and I wanted to be like, "Can I not do that? Can I opt out right now?
Yeah.
Like, can I just steadily be better and not ever go in reverse?" And he did his tweaks and his cracking and all that crap, and I was like, I got in my car and I was like, this is bad.
Yeah, it looks like you shaved with vertigo. I think your mustache is a little crooked.
I only had him on the small screen for a second. I thought he only had a mustache. I was like, isn't that November?
So we were talking about a little bit pre-COVID, post-COVID, just the state of what's going on right now and how It kind of seems like everything continues to change, not in a bad way, but it's just like we're continuing to have to adapt with everything, and there's people who want stuff now that can't get that, or there's delays because of permitting or material acquisition or zoning meetings. So obviously Nick has guys and girls who he needs to keep busy, trying to figure out how to do that without just being like, hey, no work for you.
Yeah, that's tough.
He's like, he could pick up a job or two right now and it wouldn't hurt him. Which is like, I'm sure a lot of people would love that, but it's just structuring things to do that. And then once your job's up and ready to go, if you're still on that job, or I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of overlap that complicates things.
One of the comments I made earlier, John, was that like, I'm always trying to do do something bigger and get into. I want to get into the market I want to be in. I feel like I dabble with it, but I'm not all there. And I don't think
shouldn't that just take time?
Sure, and I'm 100% appreciative of that. My mentality is that if I'm not aggressive with it, then it's not going to just show up one day. I need to earn it, and I'm not saying I need it today, tomorrow. And my comment was that, I have to I do realize, and I have to realize that there's, it's not always going to be the bigger jobs. I have to balance between what I've done and what I want to do, and there's times where I have to go backwards, and there's times that I have to be right where I am, and then there'll be lesser opportunity for the next big thing, or the next step, right? It's not, you're constantly going up and down the ladder. It's not just, I think Tyler said it, just kind of ascending, constantly ascending. And, I think what I battle with in my mind is that, or what I battle with in my business is that I'm building it to do what I want to do, and it's like we take steps forward and then we take steps back, and then we take steps forward, but when we take steps back, it's like now our company's like, now we have too many people, and then it's like then we start going forward, it's like, all right, now we need more people, and it's that constant back and forth motion.
Yeah, but don't you think that gets ironed out in
100%
a way with experience?
Yeah, like absolutely. I don't it's not. It's certainly not, number one, it's certainly not a complaint. It's just, I think, this is, if I were to assume, is probably why people kind of just stay, your favorite line, stay in their lane, right? It's like, you know what, I'm just going to, this is my niche. I'm going to just stick with this, and that's what I want to do. And I've just never been that person where it's like, if I did that, it would be way easier.
But the other part is like, it's not like it's probably easier to have risk tolerance when it's just you.
Yeah.
But now that you have this team and you've made commitments to people and all that, it's like, I don't know how you do it with that kind of off the cuff, grab 5, lose 2, like, I'm not playing go fish. It's like I'm just trying to dial it in and make it right. Like where Ben and I have been talking for 6 months on, do we get a product coordinator next? There was a PM, and honestly, me being out, I was talking to Benny on the way home. It's this whole thing's been an absolute blessing. I'm not trying to spin it. Mm-hmm. It's like my mother-in-law, she texts me. She's like, "You worried about not making money?" And I'm like, every day. Even if I was healthy, I'm like, that's a gimme. And I know we put on this big persona, but it's like, it's funny. Tyler's always reminded me that he makes a mistake, it's $500, and I make a mistake, it's $50,000.
Yeah. Right.
And it's these little mistakes that can eat up profit and growth, or actually prevent growth because of them. But all my guys have just, Benny was saying, I had an email drafted to you that, super excited that everyone stepped up, and you were out, and it wasn't, I in my head thought that like every day I was out longer, that I was straining the crew. Mm-hmm. I was straining their lifestyle, their work-life balance and all that stuff. And And when I got back, and Benny was like, you could have said another week, another month. And everyone he was like, I was thrilled on how everyone stepped up. And I was more worried that it was like, you could do triage, stop the bleeding, but it's still going to get through the gauze. And it was refreshing that maybe this is where we need to be, and hiring more people to manage our stuff and take me out of the mix more, and get to, like, after our last podcast with Kevin, was get to that 35,000 foot view. Maybe 1,000 foot isn't enough.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that there is one setup that's going to be the most efficient setup for your company. I think that you grow too much and you're too big. It's good when the work's coming in, but then there's times when it's slow and now you're wondering about where to put people. And then, if you're too small, it's fine when things slow down, but when your normal pace or busy, then everyone's working twice as much. I'm kind of just of the mindset where I would rather not have the mental burden of worrying about feeding mouths, and I'd rather struggle through the busy times than feel like I have to provide when times are slow. But that's just something I deal with on a personal level, and why I kind of do what I do. But I don't know if there's like, it's not like it's a one size fits all. You're going to get to this number. Like, you make it work with who you have, but I think that adding one person or taking one away isn't going to solve your problems necessarily. I think it's finding out where you're comfortable with overhead, where you're comfortable with volume of work, and how to make that system as efficient as possible. Because you could always land more work, hire more people, get rid of more people, but I think you just got to find your groove and what fits for you and what works for you and everyone under your belt. And then once you sort that out, it's like, well, we need this much work to keep this many people busy to make this amount of profit. You have no way of gauging that right now, because like, it's how many people for 3 months, and then you're changing, and then you're landing another job. And I think that you're not giving yourself an opportunity to even gauge what a sweet spot is for you.
Me or John?
You probably.
Well, I think, the reason that I'm comfortable with I know the reason that I'm comfortable with what we're doing is that, it's not a lack of work. It's just the lack of the work that we ultimately want.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I'm filtering a lot. Where it's like, if we needed to land projects that, okay, maybe they're not the right fit, like, we have the opportunity to do that. And it's like, I'm trying to prevent taking on projects that aren't portfolio pieces, which is crazy, because like, that's just not the way this world will ever be. It's, even the big guys, even the big builders that have been around for 20, 30 years, it's like, they're still doing small projects that they'll never even photograph, because it keeps the lights on.
That's like, the hard part about you growing, is that like, if you just want the cream of the crop jobs and nothing else, like, you have to be super lean.
Right.
And you don't need that fill-in work, and you don't need to be hungry, because if you have that overhead and you have a ton of guys, like, you're going to be hungry. You have mouths to feed, and you want those super high caliber jobs, but that's not every lead that comes in. That's not the bulk of leads. So then when schedules don't pan out, or, it just doesn't work out, then you start getting hungry, and you're like, well, let's take the job. But if you were a little leaner, and you didn't have the overhead, and you structured things that worked a little better for that business mindset, it'd be like, all right, well, it's a little bit slow right now. We'll make do. Like, even like Sweener said, I can put my guys here for a couple days, keep them busy, make payroll, and then get back to what we're doing. But I think it's doing it for long enough to realize what does and doesn't work.
Well, I think that's
and
what
then
John
kind
was
of
saying
adapting to that.
Yeah, the experience, right? Like, John, like,
it's also finding your niche. I think you're always moving, Nick, and you're always, shifting roles and scope and all this stuff that, Like I find if I don't have a track record and stuff, it's really hard for me to gauge. It's like Nick, Ben and I have been talking about hiring a PM or a project coordinator. And it's like, while we had that conversation, we're gauging scope of work that we have. Like, what do we have signed? What's on the books for the next year? And then what are we looking at for the next 6 months? You know, what does that kind of workflow look like? Do we want to sustain that workflow to have these people? And
but I think
I should grab it. I have a whole workflow and pricing exercise done for what employees this kind of structure would be.
Yeah.
How much that would cost, broken down to the week. What this structure would cost. What this structure looks like. What would be my ideal structure? I have it in the other room. My wife thought I was crazy one night when I stayed up till like 2 o'clock in the morning. I drew it all out. I put each individual person on the whole, company structure, and then I put all their wages, and then I broke it down to bubbled this division, and then I bubbled this division. How much is it different than what I'm paying now? Mm-hmm. Like, what would this one increment be change? And then I take that against all the work we have coming in and be like, oh, we can obviously handle that without any issue. So yeah, let's make that move. Let's do that right now without any qualms. We can handle that for 2 years, no problem, without any issues. And then it's like, do we have a bigger move? So now it's like, do we get an office? And what we're toying with is, do we bring somebody in full-time for bookkeeping and have a controller? So we need an office. Mm-hmm. So it's not just like grabbing those two people and like, all right, got those two. What do they need to be? Is it more productive if they're actually in a spot where they can file stuff, have a home base, and that's where we've kind of settled?
Yeah.
I mean, it would be difficult to it's difficult to just be running a building company or just be running a cabinet company or just running a carpentry company, and you really are trying to do all three at once while growing. I would definitely just like jump off a bridge.
I think only recently I realized that they were separate. But, I think John, like your comment about always moving or changing, and that's just who I am, right? But I think, I would say that all of my decisions are calculated. I'm not writing them in a notebook the way you are and calculating it the way you are, but they're calculated in the sense of the bigger picture, or what I am looking at, what our workload is now, what we have signed, what we have contracts, what's coming down the pipeline, and kind of what that structure ideally needs to be to run that job successfully. And I think I'm looking at it rather than the cost. It's more so, how do I run that job to meet the client's expectation the most efficient way possible by hitting the quality that they're seeing through the way we market. And and seeing where we slip on every job. It's like, all right, on this job everything went great. Here's our hurdles that we dealt with. Here's the pain points that the client dealt with, and getting that feedback and saying, how do we fix that pain point? And it's like trying to, correct that pain point. And, John, you've said it before. It's like, maybe it's a person. Maybe it's one particular person. Maybe it's me. And it's like me bringing someone else in to correct that or rectify that issue. Maybe that's not the right approach. But in my mind and in my calculation, it is. It's, we need the additional manpower. We need the additional people in place to take care of, these items, because, that this person needs to focus on this person needs to focus on that. And I think that's where it's like the always changing and always adapting is looking at what issues that we deal with on a job and how do we correct those. Because I think that's, just inevitably, we say it all the time. It's like everything looks good in photos. Everything looks good when it's all done. John, you've said it, like, you'd love to see the final photo and be like, was that on budget, on time? Is the execution where it was supposed to be? Like, all of those questions that you'll never know. You're just looking at an amazing project that will win an award.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the other part of that, what you just said, is I question, does your company need to be the same personality as you? Like, you keep saying that, hey, I bounce around, that's just me. But we're building a business. Like you used to have, you know, reach me on the back of your truck. And now it's like, well, no, but I just listen to how we talk.
Yeah.
It's at some point, like even with my old company, we had a boss that wanted to be about me. And then in a certain town, people take shots at you. And I had to then tell this person, you had to shape the company around the company. And as if it's an organism and a family, that maybe it's just like, I've listened to you over the months and years we've been doing this. And it's like, you know, I try and talk to my team and try to talk to this. And it's like, I feel like everything's just a flyby. And it's like, how do you figure out, maybe there's 3 people that need to be decision makers in that company, that not all the burden's on you, you know, that maybe they are, you know, a PM, maybe it's Ken, whatever, but there needs to be a core group to be able to help mend these ups and downs as you chase work and dial that in. I've always said it should be a GM, I think. That way you can get away from this personal connection you have with people when you're as big as you are. You know, I can only have one relationship with my wife at the time, with my girlfriend. It's like, imagine having 15 relationships and not being married. It's like, this would be chaos.
Yeah.
Like, so you settle down and you marry one, then you start a family and you start growing. And then you have acquaintances that you call friends. You just jumped into like having 6 tuplets and like 3 wives, and you're like one of those crazy cults. It just, how do you?
I said no to Lifetime though.
Yeah,
I feel like it'd be a good hit,
right? I don't know. I Tyler, you and I agree, I think, on this, is that every time, Nick, you talk, I get anxiety. And it's like, I just don't, I have my own, obviously, issues, but I don't know how you do it at the scale you're doing it at, the experience level that your whole company has.
Yeah. I don't. I kind of enjoy watching it, to be honest.
Oh no, it's a ride.
I don't need to do any of that stuff because I'm like so close to it firsthand that I'm like, I can just sit here and be a part of it.
Live vicariously through Nick.
But it's also that I'm just so accustomed to that being the case that nothing surprises me. I think that, you know, you're immune to it to a certain degree, which is good and bad. But I feel like if you sat down and had the conversation with somebody who had no clue who you were or anything about you, they might be like, yeah, maybe you're moving a little too fast.
Yeah. Slow down the Ritalin, maybe knock it down a dose and just...
Or put it up. I honestly, though, I do have a ton of respect for what you're trying to do. I mean, don't forget the media company to add in there at the same time. Seriously. Because you have a lot of balls in the air and you don't let them drop. And you work as hard as you have to support the family and the business. And, you know, that's always, I don't even feel like yourself is at the center of all of this. Obviously it is for those reasons as to why you do this, that stems from within, but the amount of work that you put in to support everyone else and ensure that everyone else is comfortable and you're doing that you have to, it's a very selfless thing, and I definitely admire that and have a ton of respect for that. I just don't have the personality to put that much weight on my shoulders and not like sleep ever again for the rest of my life. But I do enjoy watching, and I do enjoy the scale and the growth and seeing how quickly you can manipulate and make that happen. It's like anything that you want to do, give it 3-4 months and you figure out how to make that happen. It doesn't matter how big or small. And you know, I think for the most part, it all has worked out, which I think that maybe if it hadn't, we'd probably be a little firmer in telling you like, hey, slow down this or that, but you just like keep making it work no matter what. You could probably make it work better, but it is working.
Well, I gotta up my Ritalin.
Yeah.
I don't even know what Ritalin is. Is that the same thing?
Maybe you should. Maybe that's the problem.
What's that? What's the stuff you take in college for like concentration?
Probably a lot of things.
I say that like I took whatever it is. I appreciate that. I think, looking back to, I think back to when I started my company, and I remember specifically being very frightened to start my company, that I wasn't going to have enough work. What happens if this doesn't work out? What happens if I fail? And someone having a conversation with me and said, see that guy over there? And it was just this like handyman company that just did, apartment turnovers and just like general carpentry and just all of this stuff. And I knew of them, and they did not have their shit together. And he's like, if that guy can do it for the last 10 years, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And a big part of me hated that. It was like, I don't want to necessarily compare like to someone that like, if they can do it, like there's no problem for you to do it. But it always kind of reminds me, it's like, all right, well, like you said, if I put my mind to this, and if it's something I want, then I should get it, and in a big way I feel as though I deserve it, because I'm willing to put the work in and do it, and do a better job than, not everyone, but as many people as I can, and help, collectively put together a team that, the experience is probably on the lighter side of most building companies. I absolutely agree, John. But in a big way, I feel as though that could be used to my advantage.
I'm not saying
Adderall.
I'm not saying that at all.
Adderall
I'm just saying you almost have to. This comes with the territory.
Absolutely. I mean,
so it's not like a surprise.
No,
it's just like, oh well, but I also don't think it's like, I don't know if there's a silver bullet. Like, the safety guy obviously is a silver bullet for safety, but like when it comes to this situation of workflow, having a business coach, thank you, and all that stuff, I just don't know if I don't know what
pocket door is so quiet.
Mine, I know, it just shuts. It's that
moving quote pocket door.
Oh, it's awesome.
I'm not looking at John's screen when you said that. I'm like, wait, he put the doors in?
The doors are in. They're in. There's no glass in the doors. Okay. Even though I know the glass I'm putting in, we just put it in Cohasset. It's new chicken wire glass.
Oh, nice.
Out of New York. The only people that make it pre-cut, because no one will put it in mass because it's not tempered.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I'm doing that. I'm ordering that this weekend.
You almost said tonight.
Yeah, I gotta do a budget tonight.
It's funny. So that job I was telling you about, the Rachel's friend's house that we went to.
Jesus,
dude, can we talk about that?
Yeah, I actually wanted to.
This is awesome.
So Rachel had some friends who relocated out of Philadelphia to a town away from us, and they have, I think, maybe a 3-year-old, maybe he's 2.5, and then had surprise, like, were pregnant, had twins. So they have 3 kids under 3 years old. And they bought a
like
house.
Mixed business.
Right. Pretty much.
I was actually hoping we'd have twins a second time, just to be done.
Yeah. So they had never come to me for advice. I think that they realized that like what they wanted to do is a little different than what we do, and I think they were smart enough to know that like they're friends with Rachel and to kind of separate those two things. But they hired somebody who it was an acquaintance of theirs to do a bathroom for them. And I think that they were kind of working it. We're like, hey, we'll demo it and we'll save you some money. And I wasn't really paying. We had a conversation with them when they came over one time. And I wasn't really paying that much attention. But like some of the numbers stuck in my head, being that like it wasn't as inexpensive as you thought it would be, being that they were doing a lot of the work themselves. And that it was an acquaintance or somebody they knew, somebody who was relatively new in business. So we went over to their house last weekend, and they were like, yeah, we want to show you what's going on with the bathroom. And I walk in, and I'm not going to get into details, and I'm not bashing people's quality of work, because I think that comes with the price point, and that comes with the luxury of having time to execute at a certain level. But the issues that were there were issues due to inexperience. It was also their house was a mess. You know, they had told me they used low VOC paint in the kids' bedrooms, and then there's just like dust everywhere from the workspace. Like they would walk into the workspace and you would see their boot prints everywhere to the front door. Like it was the weekend, none of their tools were packed up. It was just a mess. And I couldn't say anything while I was there. I didn't really even want to look around. I just was in the room for maybe 30 seconds or so, walked out, and then got really quiet. And then when we left, I got a hold of Nick and John because I talked to Rachel and I was like, who's doing their bathroom? Just because it wasn't right. The way that they were doing it, their systems, like they were putting tile down on plywood, which is approved method. I just don't understand why you would do it. The drywall wasn't even sanded and they're putting tile down. None of the plumbing's roughed in, just like weird stuff where you could just tell it was inexperience. But the price didn't necessarily reflect true inexperience. It wasn't like a freebie for them. So I talked to Rachel. She's like, don't say anything. Because I was pissed. I wanted to get a hold of the contractor, to be honest, because she showed me like they have an Instagram handle. And I was like, I kind of want to get a hold of him and be like, yo, I just walked on one of your job sites. What's going on? But then Rachel was like, don't do that. They're friends of mine. You'll ruin the relationship. And I'm just like, all right, she's smarter than I am and probably has more social skills. So then she was like, maybe, I was like, can I talk to your friends? And she's like, well, you were there. Why didn't you talk to them while you were there? And hey, thanks. I just got eyes because Rachel just walked in and saw me talking about this. But
she's like,
yeah. So
I love this.
I spoke with Nick and John, and they were like, "Dude, you have to say something." And I was like, "It's not my business." But then what it came down to is, I said to myself, if that were me, would I want somebody to tell me or to like stop work, have a conversation with the contractor before doing anything else? And I would. Like, embarrassment aside, money spent aside, I would want somebody to be like, hey, I have a few concerns. Let's look at this. And so I was like gingerly navigating that conversation via text through Rachel with her friend. And her friend was like, you know what? We would love his opinion. We did have a couple of concerns, but I didn't want to push for his opinion on like a Sunday while he was there, and figured if he wanted to talk about it, he would have. So I was like, let's get on the phone. I do want to talk to you some. And I expressed my concerns. And like I said, like quality is one thing, but then like industry standard, order of operations, a family living in a house, it's their only bathroom, guys. Like their only full bathroom. They have a half bath. They have 3 kids, 2 adults, one who goes to work every day. The contractor, you know, the bathroom's been out for over a month, and they have like a hose set up on their back porch to shower.
What? And
like, it's doable that they have board up in the shower. It could be roughed in, and the shower could work. You know, they just red guarded the seams for some reason, which on tile board, another story. But like, that could have been waterproofed, and there could be a usable shower in there. It's a tub, like a alcove tub.
Yeah, you can put plastic sheeting up.
Exactly. You could put a shower curtain up and completely have a usable tub for their 3 kids,
right, and
a shower for the adults, which like right off the bat, I'm like, what's the contractor thinking not getting that up and running for them as soon as possible? Even like a big red flag for me was walk in and it was plaster that got removed and they put drywall up, so now all the jams are proud everywhere. And that's just like a mistake that you make the first time you ever do a job, and never make that mistake again. And so for me, that's just like, all right, well, it's inexperienced. They don't know what they're doing. So I told them, like, I don't want to speak to quality, but there's concerns that I have. And I think whether you were paying $5,000 or $50,000, the concerns that I would have, there's not like a monetary value to them. It's the fact that you hired somebody to execute a job, to lead you through that job, and they're not doing it correctly, like not having the plumbing roughed in, not having a functioning shower for you guys, tile on plywood, just stuff where there's just like way better systems to use, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to do them. So I looked up the company, and it looks like it's like a husband and wife team, and they were in completely different industries, and they bought a house and they fixed it up, and then they started a design company. They started a contracting business, and they went off on their own, and now they're hiring people, and they're putting people in the field, and they've never stopped by this job site once to check on it.
What?
Yep. So they have a carpenter, whoever's there running this job, doing this job every day, and the owner of the company, who, like, it's still a small company, I would say maybe like 4 or 5 people, but has never come to the job to check on anything that's going on. So my Rachel's friends were super appreciative. They were like, we're glad that you ended up speaking up. We did had concerns, and the owner of the company ended up coming over, and I think he understood a lot of their concerns. A few things he said was, that's just like how we do things, which is, it's fine. If you're going to warranty the work and that's how you do it, like, make sure that you have that in writing. Their price point wasn't absolute top dollar. But what really annoyed me and pissed me off is the fact that you started a company, and you're expanding a company, and you're growing a company, and you're selling jobs for not that inexpensive for what the scope is. And then you're never following up. You're never going to the job. You're never checking on it. You have a family with 3 kids under the age of 3 that you're remodeling a house with, like, lath and plaster, and you've never stepped in to see if it's clean, to see if they have a shower. And it legitimately pissed me off that, like, you just think you can be in a completely different industry, and you buy one house and work on it yourself, and now you can start your company and bring people on board to be a design build company, in air quotes. And I guess, I wanted to inform the customers of my concerns, but I also, I wanted to hop on the phone and talk with somebody to be like, why should I not call this guy up and be like, what the hell are you doing to people's houses and, like, to these people?
What do you think what would that conversation look like if you actually called him?
If I would have called him, like, after I left the house, probably not good, because I probably just would have been like a knee-jerk reaction and an a-hole.
But today, like, if you were to call him today,
I feel like I would want to know why you think that that's okay. Why you think that you're qualified to start a business and hire for a business, sell jobs, and not walk in and check on them. Like, how I understand why that's okay in our business, because that's the way that it's set up. But I don't get how you sleep at night, or how you even think, like, it took a long time for me to be like, hey, you know what? I can really do this. I could go off on my own. This is what I can do. And there was a very steep learning curve. And I still, before I do anything, go into the ins and outs of how it works and what systems and what are the potential fail points, and not send people to my job that aren't qualified, not have unsupervised work there. And, like, somebody can just leave their job in another career and start a design company where you can repost other people's jobs, throw a couple pictures of your own work up from far away that, like, aesthetically have a good design, and then call yourself a design build company. I think that would be my biggest question to them. Like, whatever made you think that you had the experience to do this and have somebody exchange their money and let you into their home to do that? And everyone's got to start somewhere, right? Mm-hmm. But this is a very good example of somebody needing to have experience before they start a company.
Yeah, I mean, you also pointed out a very common issue is that the whole social thing, the social media reposting others' work, taking credit for work, or at least appearing as though you're taking credit.
Yeah, I mean, if you scroll through their feed, like they're like, it's not like not my work. It's a photo. We're like really loving this right now, but it's not coming outright and saying, "Hey, this is not our job," or crediting that person.
Like, I'd be lying to if I said that, you know, there hasn't been times where it's like, man, if I just, you know, if all I would have to do is just start posting inspiration photos of the homes that I want to build, and I would at some point get a call and say, hey, we want to build this house.
Yep.
And it's like, I sit there and it's like, I go back and forth where it's like, part of me is like, what would be so bad? I know I could execute on it, but then the other side of it is like, what's so bad about it is that the industry does that. Like, I'm sitting here angry as you are of someone doing that and not being able to execute on it. So what makes it right for, you know, it doesn't make it like, why should I think that it's right for me to do it? And I don't think there's an answer to that. It's just like, it's wild to think that it's very evident that you can build a business by completely faking it like that.
Sure. And I mean, I also don't think it would be as bad as if you followed through with the execution. You know, like if you don't have a portfolio and you're reposting people's work and crediting them properly, and people say, hey, I like their aesthetic, and like you can fulfill your end of the bargain and you can execute the way that you're selling for the price that you're charging. Sure. Like whatever. You're fulfilling your end of the bargain, but I don't think that they are. And I don't think that you're in a
website.
Yeah.
It took me 3 years to launch a website.
Yeah. And like, I don't think that you're in a position to be selling that type of work and doing that and then not following through or checking up on the job or anything. It annoys me to no end. And like, I don't know, even going on social media or their website and everyone's like smiling and having a good time and we're doing this and here's a picture of us together. And it's like, yeah, like let's post a picture of the person's house that you have torn apart right now. Like and what their faces look like.
So why is it so hidden? It's like if you didn't say something to them, right? Like it just would have continued. They would have finished the job. They would have taken photos of it. They would have posted it. And the worst thing that would have happened is that they just wouldn't have hired them again to do a job.
Correct.
That's it. And it's like I'm so confused at how that stuff just flies under the radar. John, like you deal with it in Wellesley. It's like, I don't get how that, like how does that stuff just like fly by, like, hey, no big deal. Like the house
part of the problem is realistically, like the person who owns the company doesn't even know. And like, that's part of the issue for me, that there's no barrier to entry.
But regardless of the owner, I mean from like the end user, man, like they're not even voicing their concerns when there's this qualified.
It's because they think they're still getting a deal, and they've accepted that. And the other part of it is,
but what's the threshold?
What's that?
What's the threshold
I don't know.
for that?
I don't know what it is.
When do they stop thinking that they get a deal and that they realize, hey, I'm getting screwed?
I think that's what kind of happens. Go ahead.
Did they
John.
get more than one number?
I didn't really
what the
even.
Process was.
So the first question I asked when she hired them, because I didn't want to speak out of line, which I probably was regardless, but I was like, why did you hire them? Did they what did they sell you on? Was it a price? Was it a friendship? Was it a connection? Was it a level of execution? What was important when you hired them? And she said that she used to work with the guy's wife, that she really liked their aesthetic, and that, that they had a good eye for design, and that they got initial budgeting in place, and it was a lot more than they wanted to spend, so they scaled back. And then the guy who owns the house asked, the normal stuff where, like, I feel like somebody first going into business was like, hey, can we do the demolition to save a couple bucks? which I don't feel like is that abnormal. Somebody with like 3 young kids, and it's not, it's not a $50,000 bathroom where they're looking to do that. Like once they had the 3 kids, the wife had to stop working, so they're trying to do things and pinch pennies as much as possible. But I think that they hired them because they felt like safe and that they could trust them, to be honest. And it just, I don't think that they have the experience and the people that are on the job have the experience. But kind of to answer Nick's questions, I think that they started having concerns. But it was like, it's a little too late at that point, because it's one thing and then it's another. And then by the time you're just like, okay, yeah, that's just not right. It's a month and a half into the process at this point. And the bathrooms, no, it's a 5x8 bathroom, like with an alcove tub. It shouldn't, there's nothing custom going on in there. It shouldn't be that backlogged.
Yeah, but like what I'm thinking, like in my head, is in this market, when the first concern builds and it's not voiced, and it becomes like the silent thing, it's going to a lawsuit. Like that company is like one project away from being sued.
Yeah.
In a $15,000 bathroom is not going to cover anything.
No.
For rework and all that stuff, and they're upside down. So a pretty website and all that stuff can be just exterminated by one of these incidents. Like one of those kids gets hurt or dust or whatever happens.
Yeah.
They get a lead test, and the lead test is extremely high because of this. Guess what? Kiss that company goodbye.
Yeah. Which I don't wish poorly on anyone, and I do want people to get into this industry because it's enticing to them and because they like design and because they're passionate about it. But like, you just can't come in blindly into somebody's house and pretend that you know what you're doing, or send somebody there that doesn't know what the hell they're doing and just assume that they're doing what they have to.
Yeah. It's not a flip that you doing like in a vacant house.
No. And this is basically what it was. It was like flip work, which, I don't think it's fair to do that. I mean, stupid stuff like the plumbing on the vanity wall closed up, but no plumbing for the sink there, and the drywall's closed in. And I went down in the basement and there's a lead bend popping up through the wall, that's not vented and everything else. And it's like, well, how do they have the drywall closed in? There's no plumbing for the vanity yet. We're like, that's just like complete ignorance and inexperience. And
I leave a whip for electrical, but I've never left a whip for a drain.
Yeah, buried it in the wall, tie into the drain later. Just
that
coil up a piece of loose PVC.
You can center it on your pedestal.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Maybe they're onto something.
They get those flexi drains. I used one of those in an early flip. I was like, damn, it doesn't line up.
But it's very frustrating and it's very concerning. And it's not the quality, it's just the lack of experience and thinking that you should have a company and you should be in somebody's house exchanging your labor or somebody else's labor for money. I just think that there should be something put in place, that a barrier to entry that does not allow that. Especially when you're portraying yourself as something else.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say. I walked out of the space, and the only thing I could say while I was in there was, "Where's your plumbing?" And that was like the only thing I could say, because I'm just looking, like there's a shower wall and I was like, wait, hold on. Is the plumbing on the other wall and like the wrong wall? And I looked in, I'm like, nope, no plumbing there either.
Not even for the shower?
They had the back of the shower wall off so that they could, like, I guess you could sweat a valve in and then cut it in afterwards and strap all the pipes and all that stuff, like, from the side. Usually those things get mounted to a block that's put behind them from the front. So I don't really know how you're going to do that. And I mean, I guess you can mount it to a block and then put the block in and mount the block to the studs, kind of backwards, but it just seems like it'd be way easier. And I asked them, I said, they said, well, we had a buddy who's a plumber and he said that he was going to be able to help us out to do a lot of stuff. And we told them that they could probably back that out of their quote. And I was like, that's not something I would do and it'd be a concern for me. But I said, at the same time, when they were on the job, was there ever a conversation that was to you guys like, hey, plumbing needs to be in, we're closing things in? They're like, they never asked us anything as far as timing goes. So again, not how I would ever approach a job, but if you're letting your customers do that or do some of the work, you need to be in charge of managing that job. Like, yo, we're ready for plumbing. The plumbing has to be done. If not, we're going to get our plumber here. And, there's a lot of places to go wrong. And I'm not pointing blame at one or the other. It takes two to tango. But at the end of the day, it was very obvious to me that there was a lot of inexperience on that job. And the price didn't reflect that. And I think that there's a time. I don't personally think that there's a time and a place for that type of work. But I could see in a flip somebody doing something like that. I could maybe wrap my head around it a little bit more. I still don't think it's right.
So what is it? What's their plan at this point?
So I was going to stop over there tomorrow just because I went over everything on the phone, and I know that like the way that my brain works and how I think and what comes out of my mouth could be completely overwhelming to somebody who's not on the same page as me. So I was like, let's walk through the space together and I'll just like voice my concerns. And I don't want them to go to the contractor and just be like, this, and not have any idea what they're talking about. And also like, I think that unless you had the conversation with level of execution or you saw some of their jobs, you don't really have a leg to stand on as far as how they do things. More so it would be the bigger issues, venting for plumbing, the tile installation holding up, the jams being proud of the drywall. Like there's no good way to finish that at this point unless you like took 5/4 and rabbited out the back to like, it's just dumb. Or like packed out the back of the trim. It's stupid. Make sure that like their exhaust fan is vented to the outside. So I wanted to stop by, but I guess they reached out to the owner of the company and he was stopping by yesterday evening. And then she got a hold of me today and, she said we had a list of concerns that they went over, and I think that they're going to come up with a game plan to trying to fix a lot of them. He told us like their reasoning for doing some of the other ones. And I don't know if they were completely sold on that. So I think that they did have like a family member come over who's relatively handy or is in the trades or something to look at it and go over it again. And I think they're going to go back to the contractor, the owner of the company one more time and have another conversation. But I don't know where it's going to end. They were very appreciative of me helping them, which I was concerned because I'm not looking to stir the pot or just like rag on somebody. And again, it's not a quality of work thing. Everyone has to start somewhere. I just think that, it was somewhat of the case where you're not working safely in somebody's house and you're not delivering any sort of acceptable product. So she said, hard lesson learned for us. We chose them because we knew them and we trusted them and we liked their aesthetic. They weren't the cheapest people that we could have gone with, but we just have to get through this project at this point. Get our tail out from between our legs and being embarrassed about all of this, and moving forward we won't be using them again for any renovations.
And that's it. That's the only negative side of what they... Correct.
There's no recourse for them.
It's not like they're gonna write a bad review on them. It's not like they're gonna that it's just wild to me that that's how we move through this industry, where it's like on the flip side, many of our listeners and the three of us here, it's like we are constantly, I think it goes back to what I was getting at, is like, I want to be doing the better jobs, the bigger jobs, the more detailed jobs, the architect driven jobs, because I deserve it. Because I know that guys that aren't deserving of it are doing it.
Yeah.
And they're getting away with it, and the job's a nightmare, and it's whatever. They deal with all these issues, and then they're on to the next one, and there's never talk of it. It's like, I think early in our podcast days, I talked about the project in Boston that, I did all the demo for free. And it's like, John, I think you did a job similar, where it's like you did all the demo for free, and it's like it didn't pay off. And it's like that particular job, it ended up getting given to the guy that was literally half of our cost. I got called in 2.5 years later saying, hey, can you come finish the job? I went because I was so curious at, like, okay, 2.5 years later, this guy was half the money. I might as well walk. And walking the job, I'm like, all right, the execution is just insanely poor. And all the photos I've been seeing of it come together has been elaborate, and it's just amazing. And it's just this incredible space, only to realize it's just absolute shit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I remember I'm writing this list, and I'll never forget, the architect looked at me and said, hey, just so you know, we've talked about it, and we've decided that whoever fixes it, like, if you fix it, you can take credit for the build. And I looked at him, I'm like,
this was a mistake, me even showing up.
I was like, listen, this isn't for me. Like, I'm not looking. I came here because I genuinely thought that maybe I could help, like, just get you guys through the hurdle.
Yeah.
And I am not looking for credit. This is beyond, like, this is way under me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'm all set, and I walked away.
It's funny that you put it that way. It's way under me. I would have just been like, I'm sorry, but this is, your process got you here, and you're continuing on your process is just going to result in a failure.
Yeah. But now it's like, I see the photos of it all done. It won an award. It's like, F off.
Yeah.
Like,
that's crazy.
It's just, and it's
just all smoke and mirrors.
Yep.
Yeah. And I dug into it, like, because I was so genuinely curious as to why I got called back, but I wasn't considered for the build to begin with.
Dude, why? Out of all the shit we talked about, your team and how much effort and how many fixes you have, focus on your team. Focus on the people that actually mean something.
You feel
to you.
Badly though. Like,
no, but I wanted to know. I because I was like, listen, like, John, their process got them there. Why? So what was the deciding factor? And the deciding factor was that the architect was too embarrassed to show my proposal because we were double what he thought it was going to cost. So I was told that the client was like, yeah, he's too expensive, let's look for someone else, only to find out they never even considered my proposal. And it was a fixed cost because it was a complete, it just, yeah, you're right, John, I shouldn't focus on that stuff. But in the moment, the 5 minutes it took me to have a conversation with someone that could give me a little insight.
Bro, your mind was stewing for a lot longer than that.
Absolutely.
And
that was my closure. It's like, okay, this makes sense. I don't know.
I also I feel badly for people like these people. When I spoke with them the other night on the phone, I was like, listen, I don't know where this conversation's going to go with your contractor, but if something goes south, just let me know and I'll come over and get your bathtub and shower roughed in and dried in so you guys have a functioning bathroom until you can sort out what you have to do. Like, not discussing, like, that's not something I would even charge somebody for to get them out of that bind.
Kelly, do you know how far they're in on their contract? Or what that
I don't. I didn't get into any of that. I know the overall, like, what I had sent you guys was like 1 page of it, and then I know that there was a lot of costs that they incurred themselves and that they were doing. So, like, not including any of the labor that they were putting into it. And they bought a lot of the materials. They were buying the vanity or having somebody make the vanity themselves. So not including any of that, it was costing them like 20 grand out of pocket, which, like, isn't it's not a very expensive bathroom, but at the same time, like, I first started doing bathrooms and I was doing them for 10 grand all said and done. Like everything all in. And like, this is anything that I ever put my hands on was leaps and bounds above this, and they're charging them 20, and these people are doing, you know, some of the sweat equity themselves. But even, you know, she's like, all right, we spoke with a contractor and he's going to get the plumbing roughed in on the vanity wall tomorrow. And I said, you're getting your vanity made. Do they have the specs for that? Because it's like an open vanity. I was like, because a concern for me would be, how are they roughing in the plumbing for the vanity without having a sink, a countertop dimension, and a vanity, and like shelf elevations and all that stuff? She's like, good point, I'll ask them. But like, how are you even telling them you're going to get the plumbing and if you don't have any of that? It's just, and I mean, you know, I'm banging my head against the wall. I don't know how far into it they are with payment. They also don't seem like the type of people who would just be like, throw them off the job, we're not paying you. So I think what's going to end up happening, like Nick said, they're going to pay, all said and done. It's going to be an inferior product. Hopefully it holds up. And I think that, you know, they're not going to complain that much. They're not going to write bad reviews. They're just going to go their separate ways.
Hey, I this is another idea for somebody. You know what's a bummer? Why can't like there be a website that has like client reviews? Like, you know, you ever realize, at least I did, I took Uber for a while and never realized that they actually get to rank you as well.
Mm-hmm. And then,
really? Yeah. And then you're like, oh shit, like I'm gonna make sure I close the window before I get out. Like little stuff like that means something. But I mean, I'm not saying I want to go on and berate clients I've had. What I'm saying is I want to have something that has some sort of, not, what do I say? It brings awareness.
How was he to work with? Oh, he paid on time.
Yeah, it brings awareness that it's not one-sided.
Yeah.
Like, let's say this didn't go well with that you know, remodeler and client, and that client goes, you know what? Instead of saying I was naive, I had no idea what I was getting into, I threw a ridiculously low budget at it, and we figured we'd pick away at it as well because shit, I've had 3 kids in 2 years. That's I mean, just crazy in general. Like, and I thought it was crazy, but they could create that whole scenario. And yes, these people dropped the ball, but let's say they do write a review that crushes this company, and you know, it stunts their growth, blah blah, and they don't have the ability to buy the right stuff like a filtration system, negative air, all that stuff for the next job. You know, but what's putting this in perspective for that, you know, for the client situation? Shouldn't it be something that's created that kind of gives us an aside?
Mm-hmm. Probably. I just think that it's a very subjective.
Yeah, it turns into a bickering match at that point. You know, it's like anytime someone gets a negative review, it's like there's 2 types of people that deal with it, or 3. Ones that ignore it, ones that reply back like trying to fix the situation, and then the other one that comes in is like, no, you're an idiot, Karen. Like, you were a bitch at the restaurant and you brought your dog to the restaurant when it says no dogs. Like, and then they get into this bickering match.
Did that happen? What restaurant was it? You bring both dogs or one?
We only brought one.
Okay.
No, it actually did happen at a restaurant down the street, and it was hilarious. Reading the bickering back and forth, it's like. And they end up like offering, I don't know,
like free breakfast sandwich.
The best part is, it was the dog's birthday.
Oh.
And then it changed that it was like, it was in the reservation. It said we want to sit in the patio because it's my dog's 10th birthday. And then she wrote a review saying that they denied her and that it was her service dog. So she like changed it to like, it was my service dog, I needed it there, like, and then the owner posted the screenshot of like the reservation saying, no, she came in wanting to celebrate her dog's 10th birthday.
That's amazing.
That's what it says. Like, it just, but either way, speaking of the Uber, how they rate you, I remember I took an Uber, it was like literally a mile ride, didn't say a single word, open the door, hop out. I turn around. He gives me a 1 star.
Did he?
I was like, is this dude? I didn't do anything.
Maybe he was your competition.
You're like, is this like Black Mirror? No, I'm not gonna get a loan.
Yeah.
Dude, I took an
hold
Uber.
on. Please change it.
When I was in LA, we were trying to get to the airport, and I was getting tattooed, and ended up getting tattooed late. And we were taking a red eye the next morning. So I think by the time we got done at the shop and hanging out, it was like 2 a.m. or something, and our flight was at like 6. So it was like, it doesn't make that much sense to go to sleep at this point. So we went back and packed up, and then we're like, if we're in this apartment, we're gonna fall asleep. Let's just Uber to the airport. If we fall asleep at that point, we won't miss our flight. So we were gonna get to the airport like 2 hours earlier than we even needed to. So I get an Uber, and I don't know why. I think it was because it was to the airport. It was like $30 less to get one of those like shared ones.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and it was like 2 a.m. I was like, we probably won't be with anyone anyway. I'll save the money. And he picks us up and then drives us like out of the way that we're going, picks somebody else up, drops them off like 3 blocks away, and then pulls over and goes, hey guys, I don't really want to bring you to the airport. I'm just going to drop you off here. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? And he's like, well, I'm off the clock in a few minutes, and I really don't feel like driving to the airport right now. So like, I'll just let you off here. It'll cancel your trip meter, and you just get another Uber at that point. And I was like, well, I'm glad that you want to do that, but I don't want to do that. So you can just drive me to the airport. And then I like look at his clock on his phone, and you can tell how many hours that they're allowed to work in a day. And I was like, and you're not out of the time yet. So basically what he did, because now like my rate from there to the airport was more than it was from where I initially went. So he gets paid for that first section too. So he like picked us up, drove us, picked somebody else up, dropped them off, and got paid part of our fee and their fee, and dropped us off like around the corner from them. So he's making like twice the amount of money. So I guess it's like a way that he works the system. And I was not in the right mood to do that. And I was like, all right, dude, well, I'm just not getting out of your car. I sat in his truck, and he's got both the doors open. I'm like, I'm not getting out of your car. I'm in the middle of like LA. I have no idea where I am. It's 3 a.m. at this point, and you just took my money. I was like, so you can refund me my money, or you're like, any rider you try and pick up, I'm going to be in the back seat like, yo, don't get in the ride with this dude. And then after a while, he ended up refunding our money, and I got out and got another Uber. But dang. I was like, I can't believe that this is how they do this.
That's wild.
Yeah.
I just it's so weird. Like, again, how like they just get away with that crap.
Yeah. And like he knew when I like calmed down and realized like he knew exactly what he was doing too.
Yeah.
And like the way that he set it up and everything, I was so pissed. I was like, I can't believe that I just got duped with this.
Well, I was trying to surprise you guys.
Well, I set up a private Zoom meeting, so
I honestly forgot about that.
Looks like we got someone chiming in here. Let's see who it is.
What's going on, you guys?
Whoa! You got the same studio as John does.
Yeah, I got the same. I got the moving blanket.
Is Chris on the other side of that wall?
No, he's not.
Johnny.
What's up, Chris?
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, thanks.
What kind of mic
John
is
tried to surprise us, but I got this notification that you were trying to get in my meeting. I'm like, who the hell?
So he texted me. I was like, oh God, that didn't work.
Well, what's up?
I'm trying to just crash in the party. Thanks for inviting me, Johnny. Tyler and Nick, thanks for playing along.
You
are very welcome.
Yeah, are you guys what's on tap for tonight? You guys, who are you interviewing?
You.
Yeah,
I think it's a surprise. John didn't tell you.
Just off the cuff.
Double surprise.
No,
Must
we
be
didn't
really short.
we actually didn't have a guest tonight.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, so we.
It was a good one. I was all teed up. It's
I know.
Oh, really?
not industry related. It was our first
Some-
auto
That's it.
industry. Zero
Yeah.
Oh,
Labs,
no
where they
way.
do electric, old school early Broncos.
Oh,
And I want to talk about how it's changing. Like there's all these different things happening. Harley Davidson came out with a motorcycle that's electric, which you never thought that they'd make a change. So
no.
there's so many things happening with electricity that I thought it'd be a cool combo. And they had a family emergency. So
So I'm the consolation prize.
boom.
Well, you're at the tail end of it, so.
Nice. Well, oh, nice. Oh,
So
you guys did you already did the interview. You already talked to them.
No,
This is-
we're just chatting with ourselves, just kind of catching up. Every once in a while, we'll do
dinner.
it. We'll do
We definitely
a,
wouldn't have let you on if we had a guest. Nick would have just been like, nope, ignore.
I would have had to upgrade Zoom, I think.
I love the New Jersey honesty.
Oh, I'd have to speak the truth. You know?
I love it. I love it.
We gotta be legit. We gotta be. We gotta be legit and create that like demand.
Yeah.
If you seem like you're very scarce and it's gonna be tough to get to, everyone's gonna be like, "But we gotta get on the podcast." They wouldn't let us on.
Now
That's the way I was
everyone's
feeling.
gonna be texting John like, "Yo, let me get that link so I can surprise everyone."
Seriously, everyone's hit me up about the Mike Rowe thing.
Good.
Wait, what Mike Rowe thing?
No, you gotta test.
That's a surprise. That's the third surprise.
You get DM the Modern Craftsman. You don't need to hit me up on my IG. No, so we've unleashed the MC Nation, Modern Craftsman Nation, since we haven't been able to get a hold of Mike Rowe. We figured let's let all the listeners DM Mike Rowe and shake
Smart.
that out. Yeah. So far, what with 2 weeks in,
Yeah.
and zero contact from Mike Rowe. Maybe
Oh,
my
really?
phone doesn't ring. Do you guys check your ringer? Mine's on silent, but I haven't gotten anything from him.
I don't got
haven't.
anything. I just checked.
Nothing.
I feel like the guys at this old house might have his contact
Oh.
information.
Definitely above my pay grade, but
But you're
you guys
closer to him.
It's true. He's on the other side of your moving quilt.
I got someone was like, "Hey, reach out to this person. It's his best friend. He'll be able to make it happen." Nope, no answer. I'm like, son of a gun.
Yeah, I have to imagine that he gets a lot.
I'm sure.
A lot.
And I did try some this old house contacts.
You did.
Yeah, I did try.
Same.
Well,
Chris, you get a new podcast, I hear.
yeah. Yep.
What's the
Launching. It's launching October 1st, which is Thursday, along with we had a new season of the show, both shows, This Old House and Ask This Old House, and this new podcast, which is called Ask This Old House.
Nice.
So I'm interviewing, just like on the show, I'm interviewing homeowners who write in and have questions, but we're getting a little more like, it's a little more laid back, a little more personal conversation with the homeowners and talking about their houses in general and the work that they've been doing. And it's fun. It's I'm totally enjoying it. And then on the back half, interviewing our experts, whoever the relevant expert is, to get the answer. And it's fun. We get to do a little bantering and it's been a good time. I've really enjoyed it. We got 15 episodes.
Damn.
Covering we've got 13 of them already locked in, and so we'll launch 2 on Thursday and then 1 every Thursday for the following 13 or 14 weeks.
Nice. So is
So
it?
they paid for the whole studio and everything.
Yeah, they bought me some moving blankets.
You stole them.
big budget operation here. Yeah,
Harbor
exactly.
Freight was running a special.
Yeah, it's about $80 worth of upfit here.
Oh, you bought the expensive ones.
Yeah.
Well, I got
Well,
4 of them.
the customers at home can't see it, but you're basically inside of a moving van right now with the microphone.
It's about 2 foot wide by 3 foot.
It actually
long
looks like a freight
space.
elevator.
It does.
It
Yeah.
does, yeah.
The,
It
does.
the protection pads.
And I'm using a cordless Hilti flashlight as my light.
Bro.
that it's awesome.
I got the Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
It was
There you
just
go.
blinking
See?
5 minutes ago because I didn't plug it in.
Oh, I thought your screen died.
No, it was blinking because I took it out because I sold something in my garage and a guy came by to pick it up at night. So we brought the tower out. Hunter calls it the bazooka. So it's walking around at night with like just Like he's
Shining the light.
yeah. I'm like, you can't do it in the street, man. People are gonna crash.
Yeah, that's a great light though. Yeah,
The interview. So are you said they're writing in, but are you getting them on the show?
Yeah, we're talking to them, so we're calling them up, and it's basically I'm interviewing them in the same exact format that we're doing here. It's not a Zoom platform, but it's like the podcast producers that we work with use this thing called Squadcast. So I get to have a face-to-face conversation, which is really nice, and don't have to be in a studio, and then they record it and they edit it all together, and the episodes are about 10 to 15 minutes depending on
Nice.
the
That's nice. That's
of the question.
Yeah, nice quick hit.
Yeah.
So you're interviewing the client. Are you bringing the professional in during that interview? So you're getting the question and then
great question. No, I'm just interviewing the client, and then the homeowner getting all the information, and then going to the expert after that and saying like, hey, listen, this is the deal.
Gotcha.
The sink's sagging, the sink's dropping on the granite, the undermount sink. These are the situations. Can we help her out?
I feel like that might be a teaser for one of the episodes.
Maybe, yeah.
In the
or something that's going on in your kitchen right now.
Not
we
my
can help.
kitchen,
We can help you.
But there's no helping for my kitchen, Tyler. I need all three of you guys for about 3 months, and Zach Detmore. Like that would be my dream team. You three, Zach Detmore, my kitchen for about 3 months. Then I'd be
that'd be a crazy bill.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking.
You guys.
I feel like
paying
Tyler,
me?
like Zach would be vacuuming and Tyler would be vacuuming behind Zach.
Yeah.
The two of them would be stacking up, air filters and trying to do like dust protection the whole time. And be like in this plastic bubble.
John would be working and I would just be storing the whole thing. I'd just be walking around with my phone.
Probably nothing would get done.
Yeah, no.
And I would be asking a million questions because
3 months. That's why. Yeah.
But you wouldn't have a sagging sink or granite countertops.
No, you wouldn't.
Exactly. No, I wouldn't have
any of that.
I came home to a towel underneath my sink, and I just fixed it like 3 weeks ago. Copper lines with the well water, so there's like 2 pinhole leaks in it.
Oh yeah.
I got work to do later.
Tonight?
Russian fittings or
I literally, since it happens all the time, I have like a whole bunch of shark bites in a box. Just I got a whole setup at my basement stairs, just ready for. I try to teach my oldest to try and do this, but
nice, good. In between hockey practice.
Yeah, dude, hockey practice. While we were on the podcast, Natick High School must have had an outbreak, so Natick High shut down for 2 weeks, and so anybody that's a high school hockey player is also basically out of hockey for the next 2 weeks. So there's a bunch of texts going between all the coaches. I coach Natick, so there's only 2 or 3 kids from Sherborne that I know of, but I don't know, like he's in 8th grade. I don't know if there's any kids that are like on that bubble that are in 9th that are on my team. So we're trying to figure that out for this week, for the next 2 weeks actually. So it's,
they just shut the high school down the street from us down.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They had an outbreak of 2 people.
Yeah, we're waiting for that here, bracing ourselves.
I guess technically that's an outbreak.
Yeah, I don't even think I know what happened. It could have just been, I don't know. The email went out from Board of Health to everybody at the coaches and said, "Hey, this is what's happening." I'm like, I'll figure it out. I finally got back on the ice Saturday.
What's going to happen when you run out of copper line to cut off your supplies?
Dude, I've been trying to cut off like big
You're
sections.
just cutting off a little at a time?
No, I've been going like back to like a corner and we're taking it back. And like, so my
new copper in?
Dude, it's
No,
probably going to be
in.
cheaper just to rip it out and replace it than put shark bites in
why wouldn't you just
why not just go up?
He's going to have
John
like $10,000 worth of shark bites.
John's like,
Yo,
Tara,
just save
they're
them.
saying the same thing that you're saying.
Just save them and return them. Or are you trying to get Shark Bite to sponsor this podcast?
Yeah, imagine that. No, but I buy the boxes.
It wouldn't be a good.
So it's like a bundle.
Shark
deals.
Bites are extremely easy to use and convenient, and you can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's.
any of the big box stores.
Yeah.
Or even the
I
home
love
store.
them. We use them on all our jobs.
Thank you. It's it's funny. But no, honestly, I'm at that point with my house that it's like, well, I don't want to do the front yard over because there is this dream that I'll put up a stone wall And
See,
like
I'm the same way. It's
the
like you don't
same-
want to do something
Yeah.
because it's like because that's not part of the master plan.
Yeah.
I'm starting to
yeah.
get to a point where
I'm
it's
throwing
like
I'm throwing money after good money after bad money, and I'm like,
like it's like our cabin. Like we just dumped a ton of time and some money into the backyard, and it's like ideally like or not ideally, but that's not part of the grand
I'm laughing
scheme.
at the backyard money put in. I've seen pictures of it.
It's done. We got grass.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you do, sod?
We bought this little log
They don't
cabin.
have sod,
no,
New Hampshire.
No, no sod. We got this
Trucks
little
don't
log
go
cabin.
that far up.
And it was like just soaking wet, and we brought in I think it was like 32 truckloads of material to flatten the backyard and just make it dry. So because we don't have any, we live in the city, so the kids don't have a backyard, and we wanted something at the cabin. So the first week I did it myself, and I brought in 7 trucks, and it was just like I ended up busting the excavator, it broke down on me. So I said, you know what, I'm just gonna hire someone. But it's like it pained me because it's like I'm doing the backyard knowing that eventually that this backyard's just going to get torn up again when we build our dream house. But it's like, what, in 5 years? It's like it doesn't, I have to just kind of get over that and realize like I have to do things now, even if they are temporary.
No, I know. I was home for the last 2 weeks, and I'm like sitting in the back porch, and I'm like, oh, that's all rotted. Yeah, all of it. Yeah. I'm like, that's a bummer. But we probably, I'm like
I thought I chased that.
yeah, I did that. I mean, this room, remember? This room was a screen and porch. But no, I'm like, but this comes off in the addition. Like, that's
right.
not drawn, not permitted, not funded. Like, you might as well go get the decking. All right.
Yeah.
Right.
Stepping around the finish nails that are sticking through the rotted.
I did the same thing on my side porch. There's like a giant chunk missing, and I'm like, I'm gonna redo that whole porch.
Right.
So it's been like
Someday.
a year that there's like a 6-inch section missing of it. So I could just patch the one piece in. I'm not really spending that much time or money doing that.
It's so funny. Like right before I hopped on the podcast, I was downstairs in our kid's bathroom, and I'm looking at the tile I did. And Tyler, I think I sent pictures of it, and I'm like, man, how did I let this stuff, like I have like a 1/2-inch grout joint because the tile wasn't tall
Dude,
enough.
I've seen it. I've showered in that bathroom.
Yeah, and it's like I just completely
throw up the whole time.
I was completely
Tyler's
okay.
Tyler's
The toilet's super close
that
that I can just throw up in the toilet while I'm in the shower.
I'm like totally fine for me, but it's like if I let that, like I would never let that fly for a client's house. My shower in our master, it's the same thing. Like I screwed up the curb and it's not level, so I just put the stone level, and there's a gap underneath between the tile and the curb that I have to clean. I have to clean the mold out of it. And Meg's like, "Can we fix that?" I'm like, "Yeah, but we might rip the house down." She's like, "We're not right."
So it doesn't make any sense.
I was like, "I don't know
bother.
if like does it really make?" She's like, "Nick, this is insane." I'm like, "I'll fix it when we sell it." So
if it comes up on the home inspection.
yeah, right.
Yeah. If anybody points it out.
If they
Well, no,
flag
it's
it.
like
Somebody
I-
else
the-
is just going to redo this bathroom anyway.
Yeah.
the other side of me is like, if we actually sold it, I would fix it because it's like, oh, NS Builders, did this house, and like someone's gonna walk around and be like, no, what? This isn't what they do. I'm like, that's what he does for himself.
They'll be like this early years. They'll be like
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the
Early
quotes.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Apprentice
Oh,
days.
Yeah. So who's the pros on the show?
Let's see. We got this.
Because I
season
don't
we've-
think my phone rang. Did your phone? Did you guys phone? Again, my phone doesn't ring.
I got a
Yeah,
text.
I think you might be having issues.
I was on episode
Yeah.
3, I think.
I reached out to everybody, and I didn't hear back. So I thought, well, these guys they don't want to join.
Maybe it went into my junk mail folder on my phone.
Yeah.
Might be one of the voicemails I haven't listened to.
There you go. Wouldn't be the first time. No, just kidding.
So
So yeah, it's all the it's our Ask This Old House crew. We've got this season we've got Morrow for painting, we got Jen Nuada for landscaping and gardening. Charlie Silva's doing a bunch of them. I think he's got 3. Mark McCullough, Nathan Gilbert, Ross Trethewey, Heath Eastman. And let me just say, Mark McCullough, like I love talking to all these guys. They're just, they're the consummate pros. They know their respective fields inside and out. They're so used to talking about them. But every time I ask Mark McCullough a question, like you guys have met him, right? You guys
He's
met
the
Mark
Mason,
McCullough?
right?
He's the Mason, yeah.
I don't think I've met him, no.
He's just super quiet, steady, Zen-like guy. And then you ask him a question. It was about matching some brick in Rhode Island. And this guy, the owner, the guest, actually knew a lot. He's a facilities manager at Brown University, and he does a ton of historic preservation there. So he was not coming on to the podcast like, clueless. He had already done a ton of research. And as soon as I posed the question to Mark McCullough, he was like, oh yeah, he just needs to go to blah 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 blah, and then do this and then do this and do that. He knew exactly where to source the stuff and how to make the patch. And it was like
like Frank the Tank.
Fun.
He blacked out and just kind of blurted out all the information.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun talking to people that really. That's what I've loved about my career is I've gotten to interview. When I was at Fine Home Building and at JLC, and now like working with the pros and asking questions and just like digging deep and extracting that knowledge I love it.
So you're going back to the pros with the questions and then getting answers and then editing that back into the same podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
So how long's the podcast is longer than 10, 15 minutes at that point?
No,
Everything
the whole
is?
episode's about
That's
10
nice.
to 15 minutes. Yeah.
And how many are you looking to put out a week?
There's one a week.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Is the
we
goal
could put
to up
out
that?
like 30 as far as we're 10. No, that's 300. 180 would be 3 hours. That's like 18 podcasts a week.
That'd be nuts. Just break them up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
Stay tuned for tomorrow.
We said nothing. See what happens tomorrow.
Is the goal to stay weekly?
for the first season, that's what's happening. I'm not sure, about the
Yeah.
second season, but I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I listen to. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts. I do listen to Joe Rogan, but not you. I usually don't finish them. I usually just listen till like my interest is gone. But the quick hits, I have a handful of like anywhere from 5 to 20-minute podcasts where it's like I can hop in the car, listen to it, get all the information out of it, which I think there's a huge market for.
What are some of your
I was gonna say it depends on the topic,
Yeah.
It's all business and marketing.
Mhm.
It's typically business and marketing related.
Got it.
So like I follow a couple of marketing guys, and it's like just whatever, like how to maximize blogs or something. I don't know.
Right. And those are good for like you're kind of driving around because you're not in the car for an hour. You're not
Right.
doing a 40-minute commute. So
No.
that's good.
So
Yeah, I hope that they're we hope that they're digestible and engaging and fun to listen to. Even if people aren't necessarily interested in the topic or the question per se, just hearing the conversation, I think they're
So
fun.
what's the goal for the podcast? Just hit another demographic or another platform?
Yeah, I think to get into this space and expand the TOH universe and the digital world. We've got
we
Kevin's
have a nation. He is a universe.
Yeah.
there we go.
TOH.
Is that what you guys get?
universe.
Is that a new thing now? Did I miss it? The Master Craftsman Nation.
That was awful.
Is that a
was
thing?
so hurtful.
No, I didn't mean it like that. I just meant
The
like you mentioned it
modern
earlier, and I didn't know if you modern craftsman. The nation is that I like it. I like it.
MC Nation.
MC
MC
Nation.
Nation. I like it. I like
Sound-
it very much.
I'm going to change it to universe going forward, but go ahead.
Galaxy.
MC Universe. Yeah. I feel like it
Um,
doesn't have the same ring to it. You
So
can
you
have
guys
universe.
Are you guys still doing Clear Story?
Yeah, I think I've heard that there is a second season in development, and I don't know much more than that. I know
Okay.
it's been talked about, and hopefully.
And you're doing a digital series on YouTube, right?
I hosted a digital build series called the Idea House Build that we had a couple of houses, one on the Cape, and then one in Norwalk, Connecticut. And that was following the build from beginning to end for those
Yeah.
respective projects. they were shorter episodes on YouTube, and then they're being combined for longer episodes to go on, like, Samsung TV, Apple TV, those platforms. It was fun. It was it was tough with COVID, because it all was developing right when the shutdown happened. So
Right.
we didn't get to do as much with those as we had hoped.
Is the plan to go back to it?
I don't know, to be honest with you. One of the other things that I'm working on, one of my projects there, is I'm developing a new series right now called the Tool Lab. And I'm basically bringing some of the stuff that I was doing at Tools of the Trade and JLC, and doing, real in-depth tool reviews, not categorical reviews. So not like looking at all the 10-inch miter saws or all the, 18-volt impact drivers, but taking some of the newer, noteworthy tools to market and doing a really deep dive in those to help inform, really geared toward pros. I mean, the reviews are going to be toward pros, and those are going to be videos. I've got a couple in the bank already, and I'm working on some more. So, and I'm also in those, I'm getting feedback from the field. So I'm doing like an in-shop, more technical testing kind of thing, using my own experience in the field, and then my editorial view. And then we've got the same model is out in the field with like Sweener, or someone in his crew, or some of our other pros job sites, and they're giving me feedback too. So we're kind of getting both, hopefully a more rounded, a well-rounded perspective on a tool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you ever need the Milwaukee Light tutorial,
I got it.
I got it right here. It's right next to me.
What are your opinions on it, John?
What's that?
What are your opinions on it?
I actually dig it a lot.
Is that the Rocket?
I think so.
The Bazooka.
The Bazooka. They should rename that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that you were running off that light this whole time, but that makes sense.
The last 6 months, bro.
Your lighting is really good.
There's no light. There's no light there, dude.
Yeah, I just didn't realize that.
He's been watching video. He's been watching YouTube tutorials on
reflecting
lighting.
it off the wall, bro.
Yeah, it's definitely
apparently.
good.
My lighting's terrible.
Peter McMinnon, is that it? McKinnon? Peter McKinnon?
Yeah, can you fit one of them into your studio?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Like, it's so hot in
I
here.
I would trip over it.
It's hot in here, and my room's like
Just
14
sweating.
by 9.
I can't really talk though. I have like the most heinous fan parquet floors. I have like a washer and dryer behind me. Just try and block all of that.
Multifunction.
Yeah.
So you guys are back filming too, right?
Yeah, we are. Yep. You saw Kevin's stories today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That project it's such a great project. It's a Victorian in Narragansett, and Sweener's crew is doing just an awesome. They're adding an addition to one side and then restoring the main house, and they're doing an impeccable job.
What's the orange? What's the orange sheet?
That's a good question. I don't know. I meant to look into that today because I wondered the same thing. I'm not sure.
What is it?
It's you have Green Zip, then you have the Blue Skin guys, then you have R&R doing the Weather Logic from LP, and then all of a sudden this orange shit shows up. I'm like,
it might be Vapor Shield, maybe.
Who makes that?
I don't know. There's a lot of those products out there now, aren't there?
John, let's start building orange houses.
Not my color, man.
Not your color? You like the maroon.
I want to look it up.
Wait,
now.
you see, I actually got a sneak peek of an episode for that project, and the restoration they did on the windows, and Riley Partridge, he built a couple of windows to make them look exactly like they did.
Yeah, he's
originally,
a talented dude.
and he is really talented.
Yeah.
You got a
really
name
talented.
like Riley Partridge. I mean, you got to be a legend.
He was born a carpenter.
Yeah.
You got to step up for that name.
It's a good crew. That's going to be a great. That's going to be a great episode, or a great season.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, there's 4. They're starting Thursday. There's 4 special episodes, just to kind of cover. During COVID, there was the shooting was down because of the pandemic. So there are some special episodes happening, and then I think the first episode of that Narragansett project is end of October sometime. Like the 26th maybe. I can't remember what Kevin said. 19th, 26th, somewhere around there.
I'm watching these stories right now. Looks like weather shield maybe.
Yeah.
Vapor shield?
Is it a frog on there? Looks like a frog.
If it's a frog, then I'm almost positive that's vapor shield.
A vapor shield maybe.
Or wrap
frog.
shield?
Frog skin for buildings.
Boy, Kevin got a haircut,
vapor
huh?
shield.
Looks good.
Try and get a
A little high and tight.
yeah.
left
Seriously,
the
he's
flow,
got the
left the-
sunglasses
yeah.
on.
Left the salad
Riley
up top.
Partridge. Man, this is nice.
So, Chris, where is for your upcoming podcast? So, well, actually, when people listen to this, it will have aired for its first time last Thursday.
Okay.
So, where is it going to be?
Apple Podcasts,
All podcast platforms.
all podcast platforms. I have
Gotcha.
said them all so many times I can't even remember them now. What are they? They're like
iTunes,
Oh,
Google Play,
Stitcher,
Stitcher,
iTunes, yeah.
iHeartRadio,
Spotify.
Spotify. Yep.
Yeah.
Google Podcast. It's weird. You can't. I looked into it. You can't leave reviews anywhere else but iTunes.
Really?
Because there's people that have reached out and said, "Hey, I got a Droid. I got this. I got that." I'm like, "Oh, just go on." So I downloaded every app that has them, and I tried to figure out how you could do it so people wouldn't have to just go to iTunes, and it doesn't exist. So
Well, that's why we started the Survey Monkey.
yeah, exactly.
You can't have an iTunes app on a non-Apple phone.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe that's a really dumb question.
Why would you
I'm not
have
that
a non-Apple
technologically
phone?
savvy. I just feel like it would be a pretty simple fix. But I
Mark,
don't
I'm pretty
know
sure
anything about that
everyone
stuff.
except for one person in my company has an iPhone.
Really?
And so when I group text, it's like iMessage, and then I add that one last person. It's like, damn it,
Yeah.
it turned green.
I thought you bought company
Hey, I thought
phones.
you
Yeah.
lost
Well,
the
I thought you
phone.
got. Yeah.
No, they get a stipend.
I just give phones, dude.
Wow.
I'll have to
phones
do
make
that.
it rain.
Yeah, dude, make it rain iPhones.
NS phones.
Everyone
He
listening.
gives out cars and trucks, but no phones.
I don't have any cars. They're all
It's
trucks.
Halloween. He gives out iPhones. Nick's like the house on the street that you get the king size bars at, except for work.
He gets like used caulking sticks. Just tries to clean out the shop, give it out pieces.
I ask for people for their shirts back when they stop working for me, so I can move to the next person. Like, yo, that hoodie you were like, it was like half of a season. You think I can get that back?
Gosh.
You guys crack me up.
Well, that's
Yeah.
exciting
Thanks.
about the podcast.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
feel like it's a nice departure from the long drawn out podcast too. It'll be nice to be able to hop on, pump out one a week, not have too full of a plate, and then I think it'll be nice for people to be able to hop on and just hear something and skip to the next. I like that. I like that
Yeah.
format.
Yeah.
It'd be
I mean, I
cool.
feel like there's a lot of legwork still with like putting out a full podcast just with that short, but I think
Especially
it'll be
when you're
nice for
producing
people,
it
like you
like
said, to
that.
be able to hop in the car and just listen to one and not have to pick back up.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot more time. There's a lot of time involved in making those shorter episodes because they get, somebody's has to edit them and then retrack, and then it's definitely it's pretty time consuming.
It's like just because it's a closet doesn't mean it's any cheaper than a larger room. You know, it's the same thing.
I think
I
it'd
thought
be
you were
cool.
digging on me on my podcast. Dude.
No, I just feel like sometimes the small, like it's the closet still has four corners, four walls. It's all the same amount of stuff. Just a little bit.
I think
shorter.
I like the kind of consumer perspective and what their approach to stuff and kind of hearing it a different way.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
So this old house Thursday, huh?
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thursday.
And
Thanks
we're
for having me on.
in the
Hashtag.
hashtags is TOH Universe, right? Hashtag TOH Universe.
I don't know. I'll have to ask Jessica, our social media expert, what the hashtag's going to be.
Did
That's
you
gonna
say
be-
you guys have you'll have like a separate Instagram handle for this?
I don't think there'll be a separate Instagram handle. I don't know that for sure.
I think it would bite off
But
a neck
ask
now.
this old house. Ask TOH is our. Let me just confirm that, but I'm pretty sure.
Don't worry about it. Nobody listens to this anyway. Just put it out there. It's been confirmed. It's Ask TOH.
Ask TOH. Ask TOH handle.
You heard it here first.
Yeah,
This Old House Thursday.
Yeah.
Podcast launch. That's
Thanks,
the hashtag.
guys.
Yeah, Chris, we appreciate your support, and
Absolutely.
we support you guys, and excited to hear what comes out of the universe this year.
Thanks for having me on, you guys.
Of
Thanks,
course, man.
All right, take
Be
care.
well.
See you, dude.
See you too. Bye bye.
John, you're sneaky.
I'm not sneaky enough.
I know if it was, if I scheduled it through the calendar, I would have never known. He would have just shown up.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. I was like, I'll try and get the guys to pop in.
I saw your text come through. I was like, what the heck's going on right now?
Well, you were going on a rant, so I was like, I
Yeah.
gotta text these dudes. We got one review on iTunes. Since iTunes is the only place you can have the review. Hell of a pod. Love the super organic conversations with some pretty rad people in the building industry. Looking forward to the pod. To and from work every day. Highly recommend. Thanks for everything you do.
And by the
Awesome.
way, we need more reviews on iTunes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, just
Yeah.
more reviews in general. If you say iTunes, like you don't really have to say that because it's the only place you can give reviews.
Sorry.
And John says only good ones on iTunes. Give us all the heat and Survey Monkey. You can find that on our Instagram in the link tree, right?
Yeah. Well, I think so just to straighten that out. Okay. That's a spot to praise us and to push us up in the rankings and however iTunes works. And I definitely agree with you guys that I watched that. I watched it a couple times now. I watched it with my family, Social Dilemma, this past weekend. I had my two boys watch it. And one of the lines was, it's the critics that drive improvement. And I think that's what we need a little bit more of on the Survey Monkey, because we have 61 people that have completed the survey, and they're all great information.
Which we
Well, it's
appreciate.
constructive
Yes.
criticism, right? It's
Yeah.
not just getting on and being like,
a dick.
hosts talk about themselves, think they know everything. Like,
John
don't
steps
let
on
it, like,
everyone.
it gives us a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, it's the questions are written for us to kind of change, and we get it that reinforcing what we're doing right is great because it gives us confidence in having next guests and keeping that content rolling. But I like the fact, by the way, I've reached out to probably half guests. Question number 7 is guest suggestions, and people have dumped in tons of options. It's funny. I'm gonna say I didn't tell him I was gonna do it, but I'm gonna call him out. Mar, Carpentry by Mar, was suggested by at least 3 people out of all the ones we have and he turned us down.
He did.
Damn.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not anything special to write home about, and I'm gonna swear too much. And I'm like, dude, you're fine. People are asking to hear your story and to hear your backstory and how it could relate to somebody and blah blah. So I sent them the link and said, hey, sit on it, think about it, but we'd love to have you on. And
Should MC Nation maybe shoot him a few DMs?
hey, bro, we have to stay focused.
Okay,
If
Mike
we're
Rowe.
gonna do one thing, we gotta do
Michael
it
Rowe.
right.
Michael Rowe. Michael Rowe.
It's true.
But yeah, I did reach out to a couple other people. Nick, you've probably been seeing them come through as confirms.
Confirms.
To be honest, man,
Sorry.
if somebody turns
Sorry.
it down,
Confirms.
What's that,
confirms. If somebody turns it down, like I feel like it might be for the better. We've tried to get some people on here that were
I've had some turn downs, yeah.
that weren't really that excited to be on. I feel like it's pulling teeth the entire time.
Yeah, so I fixed that too. After my last fail, I've set up pre-calls with people.
Ooh.
So it's literally somebody texted me this past weekend. I was like, hey, let's jump on a call. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I was driving to get propane, and I had no idea who the person was. They just
Dude,
texted me.
we could totally pitch that new propane delivery company right now had we known.
White
Just,
Rhino.
like, tee that up. Nah, there's like they deliver it now for you, so you don't
Really?
have to go pick it up. Yeah,
It's right down the street. But either way, I was like, because someone had DM me about having a question and want to review something with me. So I was like, yeah, I just say yes. And then the guy called me. He's like, how's this work? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me. What's your question? He's like, no, you told me to call. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. But that was Carpenter One, who's out of Cali, runs a shop, runs a bunch of other stuff. He's a good guy. Great conversation.
He was a suggestion for people to get on, right?
Yeah, Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was one of the
His stuff's
suggestions.
cool.
So he confirmed he's going to be on. I think one of the people that was requested, I think Nick, you got him, right? Is that Benson Wood?
Oh yeah.
We've chatted. He's not confirmed yet.
What is that?
He's not confirmed yet, but he is definitely interested. Wanted us to come up to the shop. I'll reach back out and get that on the schedule. Next week we actually got a business coach.
Ooh.
Yeah, he's got a building company out in Colorado, but also does coaching and consulting. Connected through a mutual friend, and hopped on the phone with him when we were in the middle of COVID, when I was, I had some deep thoughts about like kind of what we were doing, and just kind of I was in a point where I was pretty stressed out with just the growth.
Hitting the eject button.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe hovering above it. And, actually, Nicole, we actually had her on the podcast, my accountant. She was the one, she connected us. And she said, hey, why don't you talk to this guy, Wade? And I'm like, sure, why not? And hopped on the phone with him. I'm not even sure how long we were on the phone, but just like a really concise and like, well-spoken, just really good advice. And at the end of it, I was like, you should be on the podcast. He's like, I believe he's got a podcast. So either way, excited to have him on next week. I think he's going to bring a lot of value to, everything that's going on, and just had a lot of good insight to talk about with employees and structure and accountability, which, John, I think that's one thing we talk about a lot, is like how to hold people accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I think, I don't know. I like the way I'm chilling with it. I actually got a text while we're on this podcast that we started a new project. God, I think the week I got sick, and I hadn't seen it, so I popped in yesterday, and then today we ripped a whole back off a brick building on 2 spots, and we're adding on. This is the Jacob Lilly design, so it's super modern, really cool.
Nice.
And I was like it's so like I try and be casual and sarcastic and I don't know, it kind of like just under the cuff.
Sure.
And I was like, aren't we in a drought? Isn't it going to rain? It's like, he's like, yeah, it's going to rain. I think starts tomorrow morning. I'm like, cool. And I'm looking at like the back of an open building, like into a kitchen that's just nothing there. And I was like, cool. All right. Yeah. And that's how I left it. And that's how I rolled with it. Not like, hey, here's your bullet points. Boom, boom, boom. Because I've had those conversations. Like I've called John in particular, because he's the guy who works direct below me. And I was like, hey, do you want to work this better where I just Sunday night send you a bunch of bullets I want done? Because I hate that. Because at that point, you're just a robot for me. You're not thinking on your own. And he's like, no, I don't want that. So he literally sent me a text. I'm showing the boys. It's a picture of probably his bazooka light shining in the back of the building with a tarp over the huge opening.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah.
As soon as you do that, it doesn't rain, right?
That's fine.
That's always what happens. It's like, should I put the tarp up? Like, nah, there's no rain in the forecast. And then all of a sudden it starts raining.
Dude, but it's usually me. I've had, when I worked at BGB, we did this project in Arlington that was awesome. Super cool couple. I priced the job, ripping the roof off their bungalow, going up, and she was like pregnant. So it was like we had a hard stop, blah, blah. And they were going to live there during the thing. So like cleanliness was at a high level. All this stuff. And I remember we ripped the roof off. I swing by the jobs back then every day. Swing by, I'm like, sweet. And then like I'm in the office, looking at everything. It's like 7:00 at night. I'm like, is that rain? That's rain. Back then I didn't dress like, I wore like nice shoes and I dressed like Nick. And I and I just drove to that job. It was pouring rain out, and they put the tarp over the flat roof. Like the whole roof ripped off. And I'm like, bro, you got to put sawhorses up in the middle to pitch that tarp.
Just going to settle in and be a swimming pool.
Yeah. So and then it's just going to bleed through because the tarp's not like perfect.
Or just pull and explode all at once.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm up there doing it around, blah, blah. And little water came in through the fan because they're living downstairs. And I'm like, I was there for like 2 hours, making sure everything was right, pitched, no puddles, blah, blah. And I could sleep at night. I'm like, that wasn't my company. because everyone on this podcast, I've talked to a lot of people like, well, you don't. It's a certain mentality when you have your own business. I'm like, no, I've had the same business, the whole same mentality for construction and for my clients the whole way through.
Yeah.
Right.
So Tyler, the point is, I would have woke up at 2 a.m. going, is that rain?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I would have been doing that tarp. So it's like, it's having these little pushes that, Nick, I want to know that they want that.
Yeah. I
mean, like I want them to take that ownership and then go like Benny sat in on one of John's meetings while I was away with a client, and I had been telling him his progress, blah, blah. And Benny called me back and he's like, hey, I meant to tell you, he did phenomenal. Like Benny thought he was gonna have to run that meeting, and John ran the whole thing.
Nice.
And Benny was just there for support, and he's just like, he's ready. And I'm like, all right, let's just keep pushing the whole financial things. And he's, doing budget reconciliations, and you're just kind of feathering that stuff in. Cause like we said with Kevin Craddock, it's like, you just, hey, here it all is. It's Jaws now. That can just absolutely overwhelm somebody. And then this week we're going to sit down and do updates on Build a Trend for project schedules. So that way we're doing it together. He's basically taking ownership of these changes that go to the architect and client. And then, we already had the meeting set up for bi-weekly with the architect and client and go from there. But it's funny. I emailed the engineer while I was sick, and I'm like, hey, here's a couple changes we made for the mudroom. Can you add these to the plot plan? And then can we schedule for about a week and a half out for a stake in the bottom of the hole or foundation? He's like, it's a renovation. We don't do that. It's not my guy. It's kind of came with the package. I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like, I felt so like let down. I was like, what do you mean you're not gonna? He's like, no, just square it off the house. I'm like, yeah, but that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
Like, what? So I gotta, because it's like 2 additions off the back. Super cool. It's the one we're using. Your boy, the Ironworks guy.
Nice.
Yeah, they're approving shops this week, and then we're approving windows, because windows are like 8 weeks out right now.
For Marvin.
I think for the ultimates that we're using. Yeah. Because some of them are custom, so they're just, some will probably come in sooner, but yeah, before we even dig the hole, we want to order them all.
Yeah.
So it's,
we got a job hoping to start this fall. It's all European windows, and I'm like, we got to double check that lead time.
Yeah. Benny's doing triple pane. I forget what, tilt and turns.
Yep.
For Somerville.
That's what we're doing.
And we've been posting it on Vintage Development's page just to kind of break up the content. And I think they released windows before we started digging that hole.
Yeah.
And that's going to take a while to frame, because it's like 6 family with retail below. So it'll be interesting. And we're looking for a PM. Anybody that's looking to make a move.
Vintage.
Damn, straight up poaching.
Vintage is looking for a PM. Builders, development.
We haven't totally made the change to that stuff. We will over the next year and a half. But right now I'm trying to shake out an office. Do you guys fall in love with something? Nick does everything. But
that's unfair. I don't fall in love with everything.
You have a lot of stuff, and it's like, what else? Like, what do people buy you for your birthday or Christmas? They must be like, fuck, I don't know. Nick's got it all. They get you an employee. What do they do? Like,
here's a new employee.
Like, what? You have it all. I mean,
I don't have it all, but I don't know the answer to that question.
I found a really cute spot that I could find myself.
Wait, did you just say a really cute spot?
Yeah, he definitely said cute. And what did you say?
Cute.
Gaines?
No, jeans.
Oh, jeans. Oh, I do need new jeans.
Where's your mind?
I thought he said Gaines.
Jeans.
God, you gave me crap about MeUndies.
Huh?
I didn't like them. You gave me crap about MeUndies.
That's because I think I bought the wrong size.
That'll do it.
Too big?
There's no leg to it.
No leg to it?
Meg was like, are we wearing the same pair? I was like, I don't know.
Maybe I'll get yours on.
Thought they were different.
No, but I fell in love with this spot. It was right next to my acupuncture. And it's one of those things that, like, I've driven by it 100 times. And I was like, you know what, dude?
You looked at it in a different light.
Yeah, totally. And I was just like, I could totally see vintage all over the brick on the side of that building with, washed down with some barn light electric lights. And it's not huge. It's probably like half the size of Jason from Artisan.
Yep.
Type of facility. So you'd walk into like kind of a sitting area with a TV. I've already got a whole thing. I haven't talked to the people that rent it. It's not even rented. It's rented, but there's no like availability. And I'm like, so I emailed the people that rent next door to be like, what do you know about this? I don't ever see anybody going into it. It's an old building that needs a lot of help, and I'd hate to see it get knocked down over the years. So if I could get my foot in the door for that, long term would be like rent this small space. It's probably like, I don't know, say 14 feet by 30, and then you would have like a conference room and then a couple offices.
So it's 3 of what you're sitting in right now.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, maybe 4. Tall ceilings.
Nice.
But then the unit next door is a great space for like a showroom. So like
Sweet.
long-term expansion would be great, right in the center of town in Natick.
Nice.
So I'm shaking that out. And I would love to be like that. That's kind of why we kind of pumped the brakes on project coordinator and went for the PM, because the PM, depending on what happens, they might be in the city more. And the coordinator, I want to have a home base where they can have a place to land.
Yeah,
And then
for sure.
John will have a place to land for PM. I'll have a place to land. And then in-house bookkeeping / controller would have a place to land in that office. And that's kind of how I want to do that before I find that person.
Sure.
Shake that out. But
Podcast is brought to you by Duration Moulding and Millwork. The holy grail of exterior trim and siding is a material that can be milled into virtually any profile. It is easy to work with, is extremely stable, has unmatched durability, and looks just like wood when it's painted. That's exactly what you get with Duration products. To learn more about Duration, please visit their all-new website at durationmillwork.com.